talk.
I was being a smartass.
I'm your host, Caleb,
Hi, I'm Seth. He
the other
caught
host.
me off guard today.
Yeah, you said you were ready, and so I started to hit it, and then you
Yeah.
were like, "Oh no, I'm not ready." And it's like I already hit it. What do you expect?
Uh,
Well, today I got you to listen to an audio drama.
yeah, you did. I was pissed off for about the first half of it, but I got over it.
Like, what do you mean by that?
I was like, man, it sure would be easier if I had a distinct starting and stopping point so I knew what the fuck was going on.
Oh, but you could bookmark still.
No, that wasn't the issue. So I don't like listen to a lot of audio
Mm-hmm.
dramas, you know this.
Yep. You don't do audio dramas or audiobooks. That's usually me.
Yeah. And so like the initial problem I had was like I don't know who is talking or who these characters are right now.
Oh yeah, so like you know that there's different voices, but you don't know the names attached to them yet.
Yes,
But
that's
that,
what the issue was. I
but
got over that.
yeah,
With
because
time.
eventually you're like, okay, this is the like. Eventually they introduce themselves. It's
And
just
it's like this.
it's just in part. We'll get more in depth with it when we talk about our review of it, but
We're this is supposed to be the news
segment, yeah, this is our news segment, uh, and so kind of a news for for the show, anyways, is we are going to be pre. We've said it before, but we're pre-recording for next week. Just a reminder for the audience,
Yep.
because I'm going to a wedding next
Yep.
week. So,
I'm
uh,
not
yeah, you're not.
on
But
the premise of
you don't know them.
I don't know them.
Like you have friends of friends, but you don't know them.
Yeah. So it would.
So like you know me and you know Scotty, but you don't know them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It would be a case of why are you here?
yeah.
Who let you in?
But yeah, and uh, so next week we are reviewing the newest High Republic novel, which just came out this past week, and I've gotten about halfway through it, and so um, I like it so far, but it's the High Republic Path of Deceit is the name of it. Sorry, I'm multitasking.
Yeah.
So let's get into news for this week, and we'll remind the audience later about what we're reviewing next week at the end of the show, as we normally do. But this week in news, there's not a lot. There's really just one article that I found, and it's really not even, like news. It's more of like, hey,
It's
it's
a fun thing.
here's a little bit of a preview for a comic coming up. So not really news, but
Yeah.
still like, okay, that's interesting. So we both looked at the preview. It's for the Star Wars Visions comic, which we were told ahead of time that it would not be adaptations of the show. It would be new stories within like the Vision style of storytelling, where it's not really canon, but you can, it's still
Play
Star
around
Wars.
with it.
Like it's still Star Wars, but it's not canon. Was like the, generally the selling point for it. Um, and I like what we saw. It's not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot, but it's enough for me to be like, I'm in. It's so the first issue is apparently going to be a prequel to the Duel episode,
Yes.
which is in itself a prequel of a prequel
Yeah.
to the Ronin novel that we reviewed way back when in episode 2
Mm-hmm.
of this season. So, we saw our favorite Ronin doing his thing.
Yeah. Visions was our pilot,
Yep,
and then the novel
was our second
was
episode.
the second episode.
Yep.
Fuck that mirror. I think if you get the chance, go read the Ronin novel. You'll understand.
Yeah. And so, I'm not. I mean, it looks fine. I mean, it's about what I expected. The art looks fine. they had text in it. Usually in previews they don't have the text, so I was surprised that they had the text, but they had the text here. At least for comics. Usually for comic previews they just show the art, so you get an idea of the look of it. But I guess they figured since we already know the look of specifically the Ronin style story that we were getting, they were just like, yeah, we'll give them a little bit of dialogue this time. ...
That's Ronin's dialogue.
Yeah. ... Murder.
Yep.
Well, it's not murder. It was self-defense, but still.
The wrong day and the wrong place.
Yeah.
With the wrong person.
So, anything else that I'm missing?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, then let's get into it.
I guess we could talk about Highlander, but that's not relevant.
Yeah, we won't talk about Highlander. Let's just jump into today's main topic then.
Yeah.
Which is Tempest Runner.
Ooh.
So, you said I dragged you, but okay. So let's talk about part 1 because the story is split into 8 parts, right? And so part 1 is told from the perspective of this Nihil who survived the destruction of the Lorna D ship.
Yep.
And so he is basically in like this wasteland planet. Like you,
Pandora.
Yeah, you joked it was like Borderlands.
Yeah.
And so
because I like this. This is just Borderlands based off of like soundtrack and just ambient noise.
yeah, and you got like your waiter droid, and he's like walking into like a old style Western bar, like cantina style, which once again fits Star Wars.
Yeah.
And he sits down next to this tough guy that he doesn't recognize. That he's like, oh, you're just a tough guy who's also coughing up like a lung over there.
How you feel, Black Lung?
And he basically tells his story so a lot of this audio drama is a story with flashbacks in it.
Yes.
Like there's still the main story, but the flashbacks are also the main story.
Take a shot every time there's a flashback.
Nope, not for this one.
Not for this one.
No.
There's only like 5. I think you'd actually be fine.
I think there's more. There's at least 1 per part, I think. But yeah, so he basically tells a story of like, hey, here's how the Lorna D got destroyed. I'm putting together a team to go save the actual Lorna D person from prison because I know that she likely survived.
Yeah.
Even though I have no evidence of it. Like, I just know that she likely survived.
It's like we got chased by like 4 Jedi. What the fuck was I gonna do?
One of them was Skier.
Don't run from Skier. It just makes him angry. Actually, it doesn't. He seemed pretty...
Yeah, Skier was pretty chill. He was just like, you'll come with me. And he was like, no.
I don't want to.
But yeah, so he escapes, and Lorna fakes her death by destroying her droid. And basically leaving everybody to believe that she went down with the ship.
Yeah.
So it turns out the man that this Nihil was telling his story to was Pan-Eta, who shoots him. And go after getting the information that he needs is like, yep, she's alive, thanks.
For those who...
And when the bartending droid questions him, he shoots the bartender droid.
Yeah, fuck it, you too.
Yeah. For those who need reminding, Pan-Eta was one of the Tempest runners who was a rival of Lorna D and was believed to be dead at the end of Rising Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Because Marchion poisoned him.
Yeah.
And Lorna did try to save him. She gave him a antitoxin, but like she wasn't sure if that would save him. She was just like, I don't have the cure, but here's some antitoxin.
She just guessed that it might work.
Yeah. And
she was still pretty sure that it wouldn't.
Yeah. But she was like, hey, if it works, I'm at least on Panetta's good side, hopefully.
No, apparently not.
Yeah. Also, Panetta and Skier and Markion Rowe are all played by Mark Thompson. Friend of the channel. It just has the main characters. It doesn't have... Because there's a few characters that are in the show that aren't on this cast list. But yeah, so we learned that Lorna D and Tasia were the other two who were on the crew with that third guy who told his story, and they survive, and they are taken to Starlight Beacon.
Yes.
For basically questioning and processing. So our good old favorite security officer on Starlight is there to do it.
You're so pissed off.
See, I got just so mad that my brain just
short-circuited over there.
Yeah. Well, first, our friend Velko Jaheen's the first to meet them and kind of go like, okay, you're going to go here. And then they're taken to Gal Tarpfin. That was the name I was looking for. Gal wasn't listed in the main cast. I was like, the name isn't here. I know it, but it's not here.
Like...
And Gal's trying. I think Gal is actually trying to legitimately figure out, okay, what's your story?
Yeah.
And so this is part 2 of the 8 for the audio drama, because part 1 was literally just them getting captured and basically the
something important to note. Some of the pilots that were assisting the Jedi who brought Lorna D and her surviving crew.
Yes, that's right. It was Jono, and I forget his buddy.
One of them got, to put it mildly, exploded.
I'm working on figuring out which one it was.
From Lorna's helmet. So they're not happy about that.
Tef was the one killed. Jono's the one who survived.
Yeah, and like
because in part 1, because the entire first chapter is the story of Lorna D's capture, and it's told both from the perspective of this Nihil who was who's hanging out with Panetta and telling the story, and then it's also told from the Republic perspective through Jono and Tef, which is Jono the newcomer. Jono's the newcomer who's like really like chipper, right? Yeah, and Tef's the one that's like, no, you need to be serious, right?
Kinda.
Like Tef's the one that. Yeah, Tef's the one who's serious. He was already there. And so he's kind of like, hey, you need to cool it. I know you're really excited, and I know you're like, oh, look at these awesome Jedi, and you're also kind of weirdly getting a crush on Avar Kriss, but also fair, Avar Kriss. But you need to cool your jets. We're here for a mission. And Jono does take it seriously, but he's like kind of a goof. He's the goofball.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Tef does die, and that kind of takes away Jono's
like,
goofballness.
No more of that. He goes from like kind of jovial to
well, to straight up, I'm gonna kill the person who killed my friend.
Yeah.
Because Tasia's the one who killed Tef, and Jono breaks into the medical wing.
He essentially breaks into
the prison medical wing, yeah.
ICU.
Yeah, but specifically like Starlight's brig ICU.
Yeah.
So like not an actual ICU on Starlight, but like the brig ICU, because it's where the prisoners are, and he breaks in there to starts choking out Tasia. Like he's like, I'm gonna kill you with my bare fucking hands. And unfortunately for him, fortunately for Tasia, Lorna was there, who is currently going by Sal. The name's Sal. And Lorna.
Member of Impractical Jokers is there.
Yeah. Oh my God! Don't say that. We'll summon Zach here. My friend Zach, who, Clown Baby, on YouTube. They like they like Impractical Jokers, and so yeah, they'd be summoned by us talking about them. I mean, I'll have to show you his Twitter page sometime, but yeah. So like Sal saves.
The discussion, like between the two of us, where I'm like, this is a bit much, even for me.
Which threw me a little bit for a loop because I figured when it came to the Nihil, you were a no hold bar kind of person.
Like, this is a case of they're wounded. This is unnecessary.
Gotcha.
Like,
so it's a different. Yeah.
We are on a battlefield. We do not have the time for your fucking morality, Jedi.
Well, Starlight Beacon wasn't a battlefield.
It is. Well, it's not much of anything now, is it?
But yeah. So Sal saves Tasia, just as the rest just as like the Jedi and security, just as the Jedi and security come in to kind of break it up, and I believe they throw Jono into the brig.
They do.
Yeah. And so.
And then we never see him again.
Yeah, we don't see him again. So we go back to the processing where Sal, basically Lorna tells her story, but as Sal, and it's basically like tells the actual backstory of her, but changes her name essentially to kind of like not really. It's one of those like I'm changing the names to protect the identities of the innocent sort of deal. Except it's like just my name. My name's the only one that's changing, and so. We learn that she comes from the Ryloth system, but like one of the colonies for Ryloth. And basically, part of her story of why she became who she is that her family was the royalty in charge of there, and they basically get pulled a Romanoff.
So
I'm not wrong.
Not entirely.
Anastasia.
Oh.
The Romanovs.
Yeah. No, that's an apt one. So
except if Anastasia was in on turning them over and thought they wouldn't die.
The thing is,
because so basically the situation on their planet is that
they're fucked.
They're everybody that they owe Ryloth money because they have to pay the monthly taxes to Ryloth.
They have to pay tribute.
Basically, you pay your city taxes to go to the state, and so the city, the colony planet pays their taxes to go to Ryloth, so it can go to both the Hutts and the Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And because Ryloth deals in spice, so Hutts involved.
But not this planet.
This planet has Lorna D's father says no drugs. He's basically Vito Corleone in the first Godfather. No drugs. We can do all the other things. No drugs.
This is an agricultural colony, and Lorna and even her sister, although she and her sister disagree about this, are like, we can't fucking feed anyone.
Yeah, which is the issue. It's the issue is they're low on food, and so people are hungry, and so there is already talk about rebellion among people. Something that Lorna's not the most clued in on. Like Lorna kind of knows it's going, but she doesn't think it's that bad, and in fact thinks that the people are right, which kind of are. The way that they decide to go about it is not
great.
And so Lorna has this boyfriend named Bala, who's like a family friend, who leaves a lot of the time and comes back on occasion. And he happens to be back, and he's like, "Hey, Lorna."
Like a diplomat's assistant?
Yeah, kind of, sorta.
I think.
Oh no, he's a spice runner.
Oh well.
Yeah, he's a spice runner and merchant.
Oh, I see.
But which is why he's kind of falling out of the family friend spot. But he's like,
Dad doesn't want your drug dealer boyfriend coming home.
So he comes back and he's like, hey, so we should definitely do the spice thing. In fact, I saw some glitter stem spiders out in the field where you fell earlier because Lorna had an accident riding her Borg. Riding her Borga, or yeah, Blurg, her Blurg, which are like the fat little creatures on Ryloth that we see a lot, and they're also in You haven't watched Mandalorian yet, but there's an episode with them. But she falls off her Blurg, and her like riding out in the field, and she's doing like stupid stunts, and her brother is like, I can't help you, and she's like, well, go get my sister then, you idiot. And so sister helps. On their way back to the palace, we get to see a little bit of that world building of, hey, this planet's not doing so hot, and the people are ready to revolt to the point that some of them start to riot just from them passing by.
Yeah. Also, a thing that Lorna apparently has a problem. Apparently, the galaxy just fucking hates Lorna's legs for some reason. Because it's always the leg.
Oh, yeah, because it's the leg when the Blurg falls, yeah.
Yeah. And when her ship gets destroyed, it's her leg again.
Well, I think the galaxy just hates Lorna in general, in case the story we're about to delve into doesn't tell us that. So then so Bala explains, hey, where you fell, I know that there's some glitter stem spiders that shoot. Basically, their web is just straight up glitter stem.
Yeah. It's
which is a stronger form of spice.
They show up where there's a lot of rill present.
So like he's like, hey, there's a lot of rill probably mining that you can mine underneath, and hey, you don't even have to do that, which is because the argument that the dad that Mr. I'm in charge of the planet brings up, Mr. D, King D, Sir D. Lord D. We'll go with Lord D. Lord D says, hey, we don't want to mine on this planet because we're a farming agricultural planet, and if we start strip mining, that's going to fuck up the farming.
But we have the spiders in their web, so we don't have to do that.
And then he's like, well, fuck. Okay, so really the explanation is I just don't want to be a drug dealer.
Yeah. And he is like, okay. Hey, captain of the guard. Take a few guys out and burn that field. Yeah.
Lord D says that. He's like, hey, thanks for telling me about these spiders. We're going to burn that field, so no spiders. Unfortunately...
Lorna and Bala collectively go, what?
No,
why?
Unfortunately for Lord D, his guards were working with Bala. So they did not... They did not, in fact, burn that field.
They did not.
I want to get her family's names right. It is... Here we go, Lorna D's family.
Status.
Ayla, it's Yudia D, Anon, and Helena, and Lorna. Yudia is... I guess Yudia's the dad, if I remember correctly. Yes, Yudia's the father. So Yudia is in charge of Aloth, that's the name of the planet, and the keeper of Aloth. Because the leader of the head of a Twi'lek society is the keeper. And so he is the keeper of Aloth.
I see. Einan's the brother.
Einan's the brother, and Helena is the sister, yeah.
And the mom is dead and gone.
Yeah. Einan is an important name to remember because it's the youngest of the siblings, and it's also a name that Lorna eventually takes on. So so on top of that, Yudia decides, hey, also Bala, I'm exiling you from Aloth. Right. You can never return. Bye. And he has the guards take Bala out. Although Bala's like, I got this. I can leave on my own.
Fine. I get it.
In reality, The man did not
Smash
leave.
cut to, like 3 days later.
Turns out he stayed on the planet this whole time. He basically tricks Lorna into believing that, hey, we got a plan for this insurrection, but we need you to help us. You need to get us into the family vault, which is where you guys are going to end up, because that's the plan based on what the guards who are in my pocket have told me. That, hey, you guys all go in the vault in a worst case scenario. So I need you to unlock that vault for me, and don't worry, nothing will happen to your family. We're just going to exile them or something. We'll find out some way to deal with them, but we're not going to kill them. It's essentially the promise he makes.
Yeah.
Bala is a liar.
A couple hours later.
Yeah. So after this big insurrection happens, once again bringing back kind of Romanoff like visions to me, because I'm just like, oh, this is very Soviet like takeover.
Yeah.
Like this is definitely like the end of the Romanov dynasty.
I feel bad for Einan.
Oh yeah, poor little Einan. So Einan, what? He's like 12, maybe.
Yeah, he's like 12 at most, I think.
And boy, does he get it. Because the whole family does, except for Lorna.
Yep.
Lorna gets sold into slavery instead. Because Bala and Lorna were speaking to a slaver during their planning for dealing with the spider thing. Because they were like, oh, we could have the glitter stem go to these slavers, and that would be our way of getting the money.
Yeah.
No, that's not what happens. Instead, the slavers buy Lorna off of Bala. And it's Zygerian slavers, by the way.
Of course it is. I have a question.
But yeah, they execute the rest of her family.
I have a question, and I am serious about this. I don't know if there are any good Zygerians at all.
I can't remember if there's some that appear in the Clone Wars arc.
There might be. But generally, when Zygerians show up, it's not good.
Yeah, it's usually for slavery. But yeah, so yeah, because even in Rebels era, they're kind of not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the end of that flashback for this part. And so after Lorna tells her,
Killed the shit out of your family, Lorna.
So after Lorna tells her story to Gal, Gal's like, okay, well, I know where we're placing you. We're basically going to place you where we're placing the rest of the Nihil prisoners, and it's on this ship, prison ship. But they're not calling it that.
They're using the correctional facility.
Yeah, correctional facility called the Restitution.
I was like, my issue with this is I'm not sure a prison ship is a good idea. Given the nature of, I was like, doesn't that make it more vulnerable and harder to defend?
No, because it's constantly being moved, and it's not. It has certain paths that it has to go, but I assume that you'd have to know the charter. And I assume that's not going to be easy to get.
I'm trying to keep some suspense with this.
Yeah, there's a couple prison ships that have been introduced in Star Wars, because Death Troopers also takes place on a prison ship. And in that case, it's more of the issue of the prisoners within the ship, and not the outside of the ship. That's the issue. Whereas here, the fear comes from what's outside the ship, because we know that Pan-Ada's looking for Lorna.
Yeah. It's a case of, why did you make the prison move? But also, this is entertainment, so I can understand why.
It's also not a
terrible
terrible idea.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like, if you're trying to actually help the prisoners,
Which is
what's
what
going on.
which is what the restitution is doing, which we're going to get into. So now let's jump into the Orange is the New Black section of the book.
This is the one that was like, why does everyone have a fucking accent in this?
Well, not even that. This is the Orange is the New Black because it's a prison, like, it's an all-women's prison, and it's like, oh, okay. So we're just doing Orange is the New Black, but Star Wars. Got it. I'm in. So basically we're introduced to all the main prisoners on this ship. So we've got Quinn, who's also a Nihil, and Tasia. Oh, we almost skipped an important thing. Tasia blackmails Lorna.
Yes.
Because Tasia knows who Lorna is, obviously, because Tasia's like, I was with you on the ship. I know who you are. You're not Sal. No. But Tasia's like, I won't tell anybody because you're going to protect me while we're on the ship. And if you don't, then I will.
With your busted leg, Lorna.
Because anybody that... Because there's not only just our people on the ship, there's also Panada's people, and then there's
a lot of other Nihil people on the ship
who would probably be willing to kill you if they know who you are. And so... And there's also non-Nihil who will probably want to kill you if they know who you are. And the Republic will probably want a piece of you too because they think you're the Eye. So if they find out that you survived, they'll probably want you too. So we get introduced to Quinn, who Tasia tells the fact that Lorna is Lorna too. Basically as a backup in case Lorna decides to get any funny ideas and kill Tasia. Tasia's like, well, if you kill me, Quinn will say something. And if I kill you, Quinn will say something. So we both got security. We get introduced to Counselor Fry, who's one of the main counselors on the ship. She's kind of more strict.
Yeah.
And then we got Counselor Whittick, John Whittick, who believes in the Republic. He believes in the stuff that Lena So's been selling. He's like, I want to believe in We Are the Republic. I want to believe in, these projects, these great works that she's working on. And so he's our little positive force. And then we meet Parr and Muglin, who are like the toughs of this who work for Ola Hest.
Yeah.
And Parr and Muglin are basically the security for Ola, and Ola's
they're her enforcers.
Yeah, they're her enforcers, and Orla is basically the one that's like basically in charge of the ship without being in charge of the ship. Like, because you know how in every prison film there's the prisoner who's actually in charge of things going on, and that's Ola's character is. Ola's the one that's really in charge.
And there's
we learn a great backstory for why Ola's in charge.
I'm trying to remember if it's Tess or wait, no. I think I'm mixing stuff up. It's the one that is like, I only have like 6 months before my...
Seston.
And Seston...
Who's a fellow Twi'lek, like Lorna, which is why Lorna and her connect.
And Seston essentially explains, like, that Ola essentially burned down an orphanage.
Yeah, and
like with the people still inside.
Yeah, and like it took the Blade of Bardota, our buddy.
They sent Porter Angle after.
It took Porter Angle to take Ola down, and even then, it was bad.
Yeah.
And Ola worked for the Hutts as an enforcer for the Hutts for 30 years. So that's why Ola is dangerous.
Like, don't pick a fight with that one.
Yeah. So yeah, that is our prisoner cast.
Yeah.
And so, while we're learning more about the prison ship and the different relationships, and Lorna's making friends with Seston, who is not a Nihil, just somebody who made some bad decisions. And Seston's like, look, I just want to get back to my children, who are probably grown adults now, but I plan to return to my family.
Yeah.
And even shows a little hollow image of it to Lorna. And so we learn a little bit more about them. Counselor Whittick is, trying his best to hold everything together.
That man is under some stress.
And basically, the ship is also used to take the prisoners to like different planets where they can also work on little projects, kind of like community service type deals, where generally they're helping fix broken shit. Usually they're fixing something. And yeah, so during this segment we get the flashback of Lorna being enslaved by the Zygerians, and basically because it connects to her being in prison. Because all these flashbacks generally connect to the present day story.
Yeah.
And so in the case of this one, she's enslaved while she's on a prison ship. Kind of similar situations, except the enslavement is worse.
Yeah.
And that's because that's something Lorna brings up, because she does I think she's telling the story to Seston. I think Seston.
Oh.
And so she basically tells this story of, I was enslaved, and I
to
barely.
Put it mildly, this is a lot better than that.
Yeah, because she tells the story about how there was this Gamorrean who was sick that they managed to get tossed out of the situation after convincing the Zygerian, hey, it would be bad if that Gamorrean got the rest of us sick, because then you have no product to sell. Because at first the Zygerian was just beating her up and ignoring her whenever she tried to explain what was going on.
Yeah.
But he eventually listens and is like, yeah, you're right. No Gamorrean. Unfortunately, it was not fast enough, because Lorna made a human friend who died.
Yep.
Because they also contracted that disease and it wasn't until like the actual like auctions when they found out, and they were like, well, fuck. Unfortunately for the Zygerians, fortunately for everybody else, the Jedi showed up to take them down.
Yep.
Oppo Rancisis and his Padawan Delazim, which Oppo Rancisis is known for being in the prequel era. He's Mr. Treebeard. He has like a little... Doesn't really have feet. He's kind of got like a... But yeah. But he and his Padawan free the slaves, but not quickly enough, unfortunately, because the human did get killed for being sick. And so Oppo basically takes Lorna under his wing for this segment before we jump to what happens next. So we will come back to what Oppo and Lorna get up to in the next flashback. So they basically that's the end of this section as well, because we not a lot really happens here, except for one major thing is Lorna does get into a fight with Mooglin, because Ola claims that Tasia stole her secret comm. It's kind of like having a cell phone in prison. She's like, you stole my cell phone, which you're not supposed to have, yes.
To begin with.
But it's Ola, so Ola has the ability to get that brought in. So Ola's like, hey, you took my cell phone. And Tasia's like, no, I didn't. And she's like, well, I'll just get Mooglin to get the information out of you. Nobody understands Mooglin except for Ola. And that becomes like a running gag, is that nobody understands Mooglin except Ola. And Lorna stands up to Mooglin, but still gets her ass whooped, but so does Mooglin.
Yeah.
So it's kind of even. which is when Counselor Fry shows up to break it up, and Lorna's taken to the hospital wing, which is not the last time Lorna will be in the hospital wing for this ship. It is the first
Lorna
of
visits the hospital yet again.
It's the first of many times that Lorna will be in the hospital for this ship. And so Whittick commends her for like being able to stand up against Muglin because nobody has been able to do that before. But he's also like, you should probably still keep your nose clean and stop doing shit.
She's like, I didn't do anything other than
Get into a fight,
get into a fight.
which on a prison ship is still bad. So they eventually make it to their first destination where they do their first little job. It goes easy peasy. While on this job, we get a little flashback to Oppo Rancis commending Lorna for kind of leading the slave revolt, which is not entirely true. Lorna didn't...
She did do something fucked up during that revolt.
Yeah, didn't she, like...
So remember that girl who was dying from the disease, the Gamorrean?
Yeah, her friend.
Gave? Yeah, she used her as a body shield.
Yep.
A trait common with royalty.
Yeah.
But still, if she didn't, the story would be a lot shorter.
Also, it was like the only way to
Yeah.
kind of hold herself up against Vardum,
Yeah.
the leader of the Zygerian slavers. And so Oppo's like, hey, I sense good in you. There's something you can do good for the galaxy. I know you have a lot of anger, but I think there's a way that you can point that in the right direction. And he uses the Force to take her slave collar off because don't need a key if you got the Force.
It's just, I almost made a silly ass pun.
But
You're just gonna brute force the collar open.
But yeah, so
That's what it did.
D gives her name as Einan. No, not to Oppo. To Oppo, it's still Lorna, right?
No.
Oh, no, it is Einan.
No, she just never tells him.
Oh, yeah, Oppo asks, and she's just like, nah.
No one. Where are you from? Nowhere. It doesn't matter.
And so he's like, look.
She's like, in that
Yeah.
everything sucks.
And so
it's hard to blame her for that.
Yeah, and so once again, he's like, look, I know there's good in you. I think you can do good by joining the Republic Defense Coalition. So he points her to the Carida Military Academy.
Swear to God, I thought you were going to say Corellia.
Carida.
Yeah.
And she gives her name because she has to give her name in this case. She has to have a name.
We need one for the forms.
So she's like Einan.
Yeah.
So her name is Einan.
Last name.
No last name, just Einan. And so she remains in contact with Oppo Rancis most of the time during her cadet years. And then eventually Rancis is like, hey, I won't be able to talk to you for a bit because I'm working on this Jedi outpost all the way out in Volaston, which is like way out.
Yeah.
It's because the Republic's trying to extend its reach into the Outer Rim at this point. Because this is a flat, even before the events of this is a good bit before the events of the first book, so this still is like when the Republic is still starting to reach the Outer Rim. And so she doesn't hear back from him for a while. And during this time, Captain Reese, her superior, is kind of a jerk. But he's like, it's like your normal boot camp,
your normal drill sergeant kind of dickishness.
Yeah.
Then there's the other fuck.
Yeah, so we're not there yet. So she does. So Captain Reese is a little bit more like, I'm just your normal.
I'm just here to like actually get you to do good.
Yeah, I'm here to make you put in the work.
Yeah.
And so
you can't be slacking off in this math class.
Yeah. Unfortunately, her fellow cadets Wilson and La Luton. La Luton.
Fuck this guy.
Yeah, Wilson and La Luton
Like,
are...
This is a different kind of, like, dickhead energy than Keylad had.
Which, Wilson and La Luton are the same... Are both cadets, like Lorna,
Yeah.
but they think they're superior to Lorna because they're officer cadets, not regular grunt cadets, which is what Lorna is. And so they're all working on starfighters, and La Luton's like, hey, you should give me your servo driver, Lorna. And Lorna's like, well, I'm still working with it. You should give it to us anyways, because we're your superiors. And she's like...
This is my thing. I'm like, you assholes couldn't wait, like, 10 minutes for a fucking wrench, essentially.
Yeah.
Or, like, even look around.
Or, sorry, they're senior cadets. So she's a first-year cadet, and they're, like, about to graduate cadets. And so they're like, hey... and she's like, look, I'll fight you if I have to. And they're like, oh. Wilson's like, oh, you're going to fight senior cadets? Oh, you'd be in trouble if you do that.
This is not the right thing to say to Lorna fucking D.
So, yeah, they tried pulling ranks. And she points out that, hey, I'm smarter than you guys, you dipshits. I have higher ranks, higher test scores than you on all of our assessments. And they're like, okay, I guess we're going to get into a fight with you. And so she... immediately beats the crap out of La Luton with the servo driver.
Yeah.
If I remember which one gets... Yeah.
Like,
So La Luton gets beat in the face with it.
Yeah.
And is believed to be dead.
Yeah.
Because that's how bad she beats him with it. And Wilson's like, holy shit. I didn't think he would go that far. And basically at this point, Reese has arrived on the scene and has ordered everybody to stand down. But Lorna's already made her way to a ship to try to escape. Specifically her ship, the one she was repairing. Which is important because Reese takes the other ship to go after her. And the ship starts to break down because Wilson and La Luton did not finish repairs on that ship because they didn't have a servo driver.
Mm-hmm.
Which Lorna points out. She's like, hey, too bad you don't have a servo driver. You could fix what's broken on that. And so she laughs and takes off. And meanwhile,
she
Reese...
already,
yeah.
bypass the Academy's safeties on it, essentially.
Meanwhile, Reese does the Einen shaking fist in the air sort of deal, thinking that Lorna's name is still Einen, because that's what she put on the papers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so his ship didn't have a hyperdrive properly set up, whereas she did, so that's why she's able to escape. Because his had loose fuel injectors, which caused safety protocols to be like, hey, you can't do this.
Don't.
Yeah. And then and so she escapes.
Yep.
And sheds her name as Einen. Because can't keep that name.
Yep.
All right. And so that's important to all bring up because after they finish with that prison planet that they fix up, they start to make way to their next one, which is led by La Luton.
Yep.
And so Lorna basically hopes nobody recognizes her here. She's like, oh shit, that's La Luton.
And Sesta and Sal are like, what happened? And she's like, I don't want to talk about it.
Nothing good. And so, during this time, though, another thing to point out is that Lorna and Whittick are getting...
talk about how people keep thinking that Lorna and Whittick are a thing.
Yeah, because Lorna and Whittick...
Not.
Yeah, because Lorna and Whittick are getting close, mainly because Whittick's basically been like, hey, you're going to be my mole on the inside, is basically the situation. And Lorna's like, I'm not a rat, but okay.
On the premise of, I have nothing better to do.
Yeah. Also, everybody kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And you seem like you're actually trying to do something. You're naive, but you're at least trying. And so, because of these frequent visits that they have,
Everyone's like, hey, what you doing with Whittick in the fucking counselor's office?
it's like the door's open. You can see nothing. Because that's one of the rules on the ship is he can't... It's one of those rules of,
Yeah.
it makes sense. It's
In order to keep things from being fucky.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
It's basically keeping good optics.
Yeah.
Because it'd be bad optics if they could shut the door and you get bad optics, whether or not something's happening or not.
It's the
It does.
implication.
Yeah. It's the implication.
This is great because everyone is like... Everyone's like, we know you're sleeping with Whittick. But it's like, no. All of you can see that the door is open and that has never happened.
But yeah, so they go to the new planet where they're working. And once again, like I said, it's run by Lalutin, who basically, Wilson did die.
Yeah. From injuries sustained, I believe.
Yeah, from injury sustained. Whereas Lalutin, after he got out of the wing, finally was like demoted essentially. Like he graduated, but with a demotion connected to it, where he was like, I couldn't get any good assignments because of you.
Yeah.
And so things get fucky here because this is where everybody decides it's a great time to turn on each other.
Yeah.
Ola tries to organize a breakout on this planet, while Pan Eta has also arrived to kill Lorna.
Mm-hmm.
And it's revealed that Tasia did take the cell phone, or the communicator from Ola to contact anybody, and it turned out that Pan's the one that she managed to get in touch with. And basically was like, hey, Pan, I know where we're going, so just meet us here and you can kill Lorna.
And Seston got the shit beat out of her for that previously, I believe.
Yeah. On top of that, on top of all this, Lalutin also shows up and is like, hey, I did recognize you, and I learned that you're Lorna fucking D, because I recognized you on the hollows even with your stupid mask. And so everything is going off at once. So the initial thing that happened is Lorna gets stuck under some rubble.
Yeah.
Seston goes off to get some help for that.
Yeah.
Apparently at some point runs into Tasia, who thinks that they took Seston out. Lalutin shows up first.
Yeah.
And he gives this big speech of like, hey, I recognized you. I know you're Lorna fucking D now because I saw you on the hollows and recognized your head tails.
I forget who he's like going. He's like, I forget what he threatens to do.
Oh, he's gonna take her to the Republic.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah,
he's going to expose her identity to the Republic.
He's like, I'll expose your identity. I'll get rewarded for this. And nope, because Pan Eta shows up and shoots him.
Yeah, I was like, doesn't Pan shoot him?
Yeah, just as he's about to, because he tries to make a call, but because of radio frequencies being jammed at the moment, which is why Seston and Lorna couldn't call for help either.
Yeah,
because they tried calling for help when Lorna got stuck, but they couldn't call anybody, so that's why Seston had to leave to get help, and so.
I think one of their like possible explanations was because they're not entirely sure.
They think whoever started the riots,
either that or
that Pan shut down communication.
Another one that is tossed out is an odd one, even to me. Is like there's metal in the trees, and I'm like,
well, it's an ore planet.
I'm like, that could be it. The point is, it doesn't really matter. The point is, they can't reach out for help.
So, which makes for very interesting with everything that goes down here. And so, Tasia shows up behind Pan and is like, yep, I'm the one who called him. And Lorna's like, you're an idiot. He's not going to let you live either.
What did you think was going to happen once he was done?
she was like, obviously I'd be promoted as his one of his storms.
Hmm.
I was trying to get the right terminology because it's Tempest runners, storms, and then clouds, and then everybody strikes. Yeah, and then that's it. Strikes the lowest it gets. And so they Pan sends Tasia off to double check that nobody else is going to approach because he's like, "You sure you dealt with Sesson?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm sure." And he's like, I double check."
Yeah, go look again.
And then when she leaves, Panada's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill her when she comes back."
Yeah. Anyhow, I'm gonna monologue.
Yeah, I got a monologue now.
How much this is bullshit.
And during this, we kind of get a flashback more of Lorna's life.
Yeah.
Because Lorna is like explaining like how she joined the Nihil at this point. Because we're now getting close to when she joined the Nihil. So after leaving Carida, she basically became she became a gladiator, essentially.
Basically.
And she wears Mandalorian iron. And some people actually could think that she's Mandalorian, and they're like, "No, she has head tails, you dum-dum. What kind of Mandalorian has head tails?" And they're like, "I don't know. I've never seen a Mandalorian like this." And so...
she's just going around beating the shit out of people.
Yeah, and so Bala shows up, because it turns out that he had bet on her to win. And so she's like, "Hey, thanks for the drink, you dum-dum," because he got a drink out of it when he won. And he basically hires her to protect the shipment of spice because they keep getting attacked by Nihil.
Yeah.
Basically, as soon as they ship it off, the ship gets taken, like, immediately.
And he's like, "This is bullshit. I'm losing so much drug money."
And it's even worse because not only am I losing money, I owe money to the Hutts.
Yeah.
Because I promised them I would get so many shipments out.
And I can't get any shipments out because the Nihil keep fucking taking them.
So Lorna, seeing an opportunity for revenge, goes, "Sure, I will help you."
Yep.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. For the price of 300 ingots and a starship. Which Bala agrees to after a little bit of negotiating. He starts...
I do not know how much that is actually worth.
They're just actual physical credits.
Okay.
So rather than like... Because you can also get credits in like a credit card form where it's all digital. But ingots are just like the physical form of credits.
I see. Okay.
And so... Turns out, no, she was planning... She's like... At first she's like, "I don't know why I'm helping him. Oh yeah, the money." And then eventually... She's like, "Oh yeah, I could betray him," because she ends up. It turns out that Ada's Tempest is the one that was stealing all the spice because they have an inside man in the Hutts who's giving them all this information. And so they get into a fight with Lorna, who beats up a Colicoid storm named Jinx, who underestimates her. And basically she kills him because she ends up replacing him. And Colicoids are like an insectoid type. Usually have like hard shells.
Okay.
That's how they look in Legends. It's kind of like the Droideca's design, like the Droideca droids are based on them.
Okay.
And so,
beat the shit out of a roly-poly.
Yeah. And so...
It's person-sized, goddamn.
Yeah. And so... She ends up killing all the organic marauders and damages H7, which is the storm, which is Jinx's droid, and becomes her droid. H7 is the one that was sacrificed at the beginning of the story. And so...
Lorna, she goes really hard against droids.
And so after that, they get in, and even with Jinx on stims, he loses.
Yep.
which Lorna actually takes some of the stems, which is how she wins.
Yeah.
Because he thought that she died, and she was like, nope. Got a little bit of that adrenaline directly into her. And so, after killing all of them, she fights Panada, who basically she's like, hey, we don't have to fight, because I don't like this Bala guy either.
Yeah.
Wanna just rip him off?
Yeah. And Pan's like,
in fact, I could tell you how to raid Aloth, the planet itself. And he's like, I'm interested.
okay.
And so they end up ripping off. They end up raiding Aloth itself, which right at the perfect time too, because at this point Bala's like, hey, so I don't know where my spice shipment went. It's been pretty quiet. I think my mercenary failed, and that's when Panada shows up with his raid, and then basically Lorna pulls a. Okay, I guess we are going to talk Highlander here. Lorna pulls a Kurgan and is like, hey, Bala's mine.
Don't.
Respect the 1v1.
It's not even that. It's a what's my name, Bala.
Yeah, it's a Highlander with a dash of Breaking Bad. What's my name? Lorna D. Shot. Because basically
Dude, this is just a Star Wars gangster film.
Yeah, and I love it.
It's great.
I kind of wish that this script could be, because this is the physical script. Yeah. I kind of wish the script could just be turned into, like somebody did just turn it into a movie, because it's a good script. It's good for it.
Very good.
I mean, it's only a 6-hour audiobook, so maybe you turn it into audio drama. So maybe you turn it into 2 movies, split them up. You could kind of find a spot to do it. I would say about where we're at is where the split would happen.
Yeah.
It would be the end of the first film, and then the second film would be from here. Because we're about to hit a point where we were like, oh, this could be the ending. And then it's like, no. Nope.
We have a little while to go.
In fact, you're only halfway through. Because at this point, so in the flashback, she takes the Mandalorian helmet off and is like, you don't recognize me, dum-dum? And Bala's like, oh shit, it's Lorna. And she's like, damn right. And she takes Genix's ship as hers, the Tooth Spike, and renames it the Lorna D. And that's the end of the flashback. And that's when Pan's just like, yeah, you kind of like hearing your own name, don't you? And so they get into a fight.
Just imagining Lorna in front of some like low-level Nihil just going, what's my name? To a guy who has no idea who she is, like, actually.
Yeah. And so her and Pan get into a fight.
Yeah.
And by that I mean Pan is ready to kill her because she's still stuck. This whole time she's just been stuck under this rubble.
Yeah.
And thankfully Cessia shows up. And basically they basically
by ring out.
Well, yeah, because they use one of the machines to knock him out over the over this cliff.
They throw him into a pit.
Yeah, into a pit. And they think that some rubble fall on him in the process. And so they're like, must be dead. And that's when Quinn gets injured during all this at some point, I think, right? Yeah, because Quinn is injured during the riot part.
Yeah.
And so Sesson shows up with Whittick and Fry, and they're like, holy shit, what happened here? And at this point, Lorna passes out.
We got attacked by his guy.
And Lorna goes back into the hospital wing again.
Yep.
And when she wakes up, they're already like a few days out away from the planet. And they're like, okay, so tell us the story again, because we assume that others have said their version of it, and Whittick's like, okay, so what happened? And basically, the story that they go with is that After Muglin started the riot, Lorna got stuck under this rubble. I think they blame Pan for dropping the rubble on her.
No.
No. Okay.
No, because that's just actually a genuine accident.
Okay. So yeah, they just say, yeah, this rubble fell on me. Seston went to go get help, which all so far true.
Yeah.
And then where the lies begin is that, oh yeah, Lelutin was coming to help me. And that's when Panada came. But we don't know who Panada is, according to the lie. Just some big Dolatin.
Some Dewutin shot Lelutin.
Yeah, some Dolatin shot Lelutin, and I don't know why he went after me, but he did.
I don't know what I did to piss this man off so badly.
Yeah. And so, I mean, pretty terrifying. Yeah. It's the same race as Ninth Sister in the Jedi Fallen Order game.
I see.
Whew. The one that you drop out of the trees on Kashyyyk.
Good luck with gravity.
Yeah, gravity will kill her.
As it has everyone in Star Wars.
It actually killed a lot of people in Star Wars, surprisingly. Sure, they come back, but they died.
Does it count if they get better?
Not if it's a different body.
Okay.
So then basically that's their story, and they're sticking with it. Except they're not, because Lorna gives Widdick the truth that her name is Lorna. And she's like, look, I'm Lorna D.
The biggest...
Yeah, I'm one of the biggest criminals out there.
In the galaxy.
And Widdick's like, look, I'm not going to tell. Which throws everybody for a loop. Because he's like, I still think that we can work with you to make you a better person.
We can still work with this. She's
like, most like Oppo, he sees good in her. And she's like, look, I've been through this before. There is no good in me. I don't know why you guys keep finding good in me.
It's like, it's my job. That's essentially what it is.
Also, the rest of the story is that Ola did cause the riot, but that Ola is... I think somebody got hospitalized during that. Muglin or Parr got hospitalized because of it.
I think it's Parr?
Yeah, it's Parr, because Muglin tries to start stuff with Lorna again, and Lorna kicks the crap out of Muglin this time, and barely gets touched, and Muglin goes into the medical wing, leaving Ola without any bodyguards, and Widdick gets pissed when this happens, because he's like, look, I trusted you not to pull any bullshit, and you just pulled some bullshit.
Can you please stop beating the shit out of people for like 10 minutes?
And then Lorna rightfully, I think, points out, hey, Ola's the threat here, and now she's no threat because she has no bodyguards. You need to worry about cleaning house first before worrying about what I'm doing. Which she's right.
No, she is.
And so, yeah. And so we get a little more flashbacks at this point, because we're starting to get further and further towards the catching up to the present. And we basically learned the story that we read before, just from Lorna's perspective of the death of Asgar Ro.
Yeah.
Because Lorna basically, as a storm for Pan, proves herself worthy of becoming a Tempest, because one of the Tempests that was working for Asgar...
The plan was to
have that Tempest kill Asgar in front of everybody. Because all the other Tempest runners... So Kassav, Panada, and I forget the name of the one that Lorna replaces. But they all agreed that they needed to kill Asgar and reestablish the Rule of Three, because the Rule of Three right now does not benefit everybody that's a Tempest. It does benefit them, but it mostly benefits Asgar.
Yeah.
And so they're like, We need to get rid of the eye that's currently in charge and put a weaker one in place. Yeah. Markion.
And this plan doesn't work.
Well,
it works, but it does not.
So let's explain what happens.
Yeah.
So Lorna, first off, saves Asgard from the public execution, which gets her a role as a Tempest. Because Asgard's like, okay, well, we needed a new Tempest anyways. Why not the person who just saved my life? Yeah. Because that's good for morale. Show that you can.
That wasn't the plan.
No, and in fact, then Pan and Cassiv bring Lorna in on the plan and are like, hey, you fucked it up. And Lorna's like, how was I supposed to know what the plan was? I wasn't part of the plan. And they're like, well, now you are. So here we are. What are we going to do? So the new plan is to basically get Asgard alone with Pan, supposedly, and basically claim, hey, Pan needs to talk about Cassiv because Cassiv has gone too far. So... Which is the most believable lie they could use.
I know. It's funny with knowledge from the future.
It's a believable lie.
Yeah.
And so Pan's like, but secretly Cassiv will be on Pan's ship, while Cassiv's ship is actually off somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that way it's not suspicious that the ships are together, right? So that way there's no reason to believe that Cassiv would be on Pan's ship. Unfortunately for them, Lorna immediately snitches and is like, hey, so that's what they're planning. And he's like, well, what's your part of this? Oh, I'm supposed to, kind of get you over there somehow. And, He
kind of just goes, okay.
And she's like, but we're not going to do that now. Now I'm going with you, and we're going to kill them together, and then I'm going to be by your side. And he's like, oh, so you want my paths?
Yes.
Well, duh. Well, you see, there's a problem. Only the Rose get to have the paths, so fuck you. The only other person who's ever going to get the paths after me is my son, so fuck you. But I will reward you for your loyalty because you've proven yourself loyal to me. Okay. Also, I'm not going to kill them. They're just going to... I'm still going to deal with them a different way. I'm just going to make them become weaker.
Like, his plan...
His plan is to basically send... So the plan is to send them to...
Essentially...
To... Which planet is it? Is it Togruta? The Togrutan world?
It might be.
Hold on. It is... Oh, it's like... hold on, no. Not... Anyways, the plan is to send them to a planet.
Yeah.
But to warn the planet ahead of time.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, they're coming.
So that essentially their Tempest will be weaker.
Yeah. Because basically they're going to warn them ahead of time. And she's like, oh, sweet, so they'll die. And he's like, no. They're not strong enough to do that, but they'll at least weaken them to the point where they're gonna
start looking for easier targets.
Which means they're gonna need to come to me because I've got the paths.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that's not what I want.
I don't want that either.
And so he's like, oh well, I'm in charge.
Goodbye.
And that's where Asgard fucked up.
Yeah.
So like I typed in the Discord channel because I was talking about it as I was listening.
Yeah.
And I was like, so Asgard's what did I say? I said Asgard played too greedy and is going to pay for it. Because honestly, if he agreed to like split the knowledge of the paths with her, he probably would have lived.
Yeah. Ah, man. I like how everyone's like, yeah, Marchion's real weak, and then from the
Oh, yeah,
comics,
yeah.
seeing him stomp the fuck out of his dad.
Yeah, so the parts that we do see of what happens beforehand is like so basically Lorna joins in on the plan of let's fuck over Asgard then. And so they develop a new plan of betraying Asgard.
There's too many betrayals going on.
Actually, no, we don't ever see their plan play out. They don't come up with a new plan, I don't think, after this.
I think they were going to, but it didn't.
But Markion ended up killing his dad first.
Yeah.
And so Markion comes out and is like, hey, guys, No, they did, because they talk about how they killed him. So they did kill him, but not completely.
Yeah.
And Markion finished the job in the comic, as we saw. Which is why for us, it's not a big surprise when he comes out in this audio drama, because they're at the hall, the Great Hall, which is at no space. Yeah, no space.
Which is
a secret spot.
Nowhere.
It's a secret spot where they can only get to it using the paths.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, we know eventually the Jedi do find out how to get there, because that's where in the High Republic comic, where Avar attacks and fights Lorna and almost kills Lorna. But Markion shows up to the Great Hall and is like, I'm in charge now. Like, and for us, it's not a great surprise him doing this.
Everyone else, they're like, why are we listening to this, 14-year-old kid?
Well, it's more like, oh shit, he his balls dropped hard. Like, where did this come from?
He put on the work boots. He's done fucking around.
Like, at first, because they thought he was the weakest link, when in reality, he was not. He was biding his time.
He's like, I just gotta wait for the old man to die.
Or for a good opportunity for me to kill him. Either way.
Fortunately, they gave him one.
Yeah. And so he basically is like, nope, we are even more dead set on sticking to the ways of my dad, except now the Eye is actually in charge, which was not what his dad had it. His dad did have it to where the Tempest would still do their things. But now, no, with Markion, the Eye is in charge.
Ooh.
And so that brings us now to essentially the present, because there's no more flashbacks from this point. Turns out Pan-Ada survived.
Mm-hmm.
Again. Yeah, Pan and Lorna just don't die. That's a thing. They just do not die the way you think they should.
Just like, it's like what happened. We shot him 6 times in the chest, threw him in an incinerator, and dropped an anvil on them.
Now, of course, in the flashbacks, I skipped some minor stuff because there's stuff with like other characters, but I just got the main points out because we missed our Gungan friend, Wet Bub.
Yeah. This is also a fun one.
Lorna
fucking wrecked Kassav.
Kassav, yeah, because she and Kassav do some arm wrestling, and Wet Bub bet on Kassav to win. Did not win. Embarrassed Kassav in front of his entire Tempest.
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, that was minor stuff. That's like,
it's just amusing.
Yeah, that's more of just like setting the story and showing the rivalry between the Tempests. It's not important to this particular story.
Yeah.
I'd say when you're listening to it, it's fine, but I would say it's not like something that I would put in a rundown of the story. So Pan does find them because Tasia left the phone on.
Yep. You forgot to hang up.
Yeah, and they're able to track where the ship is going down based on the phone signal. And so they track the ship down, and new riot on the ship happens because basically space battle.
Yay.
They shoot some missiles at the ship, which do not actually pierce it hard because it turns out it's just to let the nihil gas in.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, why are these missiles hollow? Oh, they're not. It's just filled with gas.
Yep.
It's like, oh, run away!
Yep. Also, we will be employing the scav droids as well.
Also, Tasia is sent off the ship by this point.
I think so.
Because Tasia was moved to a different, was moved back to Starlight. Because Quinn is dead and Tasia was moved to Starlight, I believe. Is the scenario. So that's why Lorna kind of has more power again on the ship.
Yeah.
And so, Ola and Lorna are both in the brig at this point because of all the shenanigans Lorna got into of beating up, Mooglin and all that. And basically, Whittick lost. Whittick's at this point done with believing in Lorna. Like, he wants to believe in her, but he's just like...
He's like, your past actions keep...
Yeah. You keep
it's like,
pulling
I
shenanigans.
More faith in you if you didn't keep disappointing me.
Also, Whittick has been pulled from being in charge at this point because of how much he put faith in Lorna. Because the fact that she's Lorna kind of gets out on the ship.
Yeah. So people know who she is.
And on top of that, basically, Lorna realizes that, this was Whittick's last chance. Because Whittick was about to retire.
Something else is also very important in regards to Whittick.
Yeah, we didn't talk about why he wants...
Why he's to retire.
And also why he wants to put so much faith in this. Yeah. It's because he had family on Valo.
No, it's not that.
Well, but he did.
He did, but it's not that.
What am I forgetting?
So he has been using heart stems. He's actually got essentially 6 months left to live.
Oh yeah. But yeah, and on top,
family on Val.
Yeah, he also, which is also part of his. I would say it's part of his motives.
Yeah. The other half is I wanted to do one more good thing before I died.
Yeah. So on top of being near death, he also, believes in trying to do this despite what happened on Valo, because he had family there who died because of everything. It was his sister and nephew?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, despite what happened on Valo, he still wants to believe in it. Which Lorna kind of is that's kind of innocent of you. Naive.
How foolish.
Yeah, very naive.
And he's like, I'm dying, what does it matter?
Yeah. He's also honestly, it's better if the world thought like I did. If the galaxy thought like I did, would it be worse?
He's like, kindness will cost you nothing.
And Lorna's the meme of, well, what does being mean cost you? Oh, right, nothing as well. Lorna's that.
It's like, whatever.
Yeah. And so Lorna is in the brig with Ola in cells right next to each other. And they're just kind of shit talking, yeah. And then that's when they realize what's going on outside. And Lorna recognizes Pan's ship. Kind of. From the sounds and stuff going on. And from the description, because there's a droid that's guarding them. Yeah. And giving the alerts and describing the ship. And she's like, wait a minute, that's Pan.
God. I wouldn't say that I've gotten over my whole droid thing, but this one in particular is pissing me off
because they won't listen to reason.
Yeah, I'm just this once.
Yeah, because they're like, hey, you need to you need to let us know what's going on because I might know what's going on, and I might be able to inform you of more information. And the droid's like, no, I cannot give you...
will stay in their cells.
Prisoners don't get to know information.
You're doing your job. I get it. But could you fucking...
yeah.
cut some slack in this one?
And so, Eventually, the droid does work with them, and it's like, okay, look, I'll at least inform my bosses of what's going on, and then they break out anyways because the explosions and everything. It's kind of the that scene in Curse of the Black Pearl where where Jack and everybody's in their cells, and then the prison break happens because of but incidentally, not because it was a planned prison break, but because outside circumstances help them.
A fucking raid going on.
Yeah. And instead of working together, which would be logical, Ola and Lorna immediately start beating each other up.
Just immediate.
Meanwhile, everybody else in the other parts of the ship are working together, like Prisoner and counselors alike. Yeah.
Even Fry,
Miss I don't trust the prisoners ever is
okay, no, this is
this is the exception. Yeah, this is the exception.
Yeah.
Eventually, Lorna catches up with them, believing that she left Ola for dead.
They're like, oh well, she's gone.
Turns out Ola did not die.
The weird part is, I don't think Ola's mad about it at all.
So Ola also everybody kind of reaches together where they're like, okay, we gotta work together. And then Pan's like, hey,
if you bring me Lorna D, you can all go free.
And that's when they said, no, Seston, you're gonna disguise yourself.
Yeah.
You're gonna pretend to be Lorna. And that does not work, because immediately Pan's like, hey, take the helmet off. And they're like, no. And then a fight happens.
Also, I now remember why Lorna is in prison.
Oh, you mean Seston? Because I was about to say, we know why Lorna's there.
No, I mean in...
Oh, in the bridge?
Yeah, in isolation, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, because the governor requested it. Or whatever.
It is because I think it was Taisha. The one that had the little picture of No, it's Seston, because Seston's getting out and
yeah, Seston's about to get out.
She got blackmailed by Ola or
yeah, into
going into the ICU to take care of Taisha.
Yeah, to kill Taisha.
They have their...
Which is why Taisha got moved.
Yeah.
Because Lorna went ahead and was like, I'll do it. And she almost did. She stabbed her, but Taisha lived.
Yes. That's why she's in...
And this was a moment where, even Wittick couldn't get her out of it because, my higher-ups have said that I have to lock you up.
Yeah. And it's a case of, I'm like, good going, Lorna.
I mean, good being a loyal friend, but damn.
This sucks for you, but good on being a good person.
Even if it was kind of doing a bad thing still.
Yeah. But this is the one time I'll compliment Anahel on being a good person.
The good news is, though, that Seston's family gets moved to safety because of this, because they're like, oh yeah, we can move Seston's family away from anywhere Ola could mess with them. Plus, Ola dies. Spoilers.
I was wondering where she was at the ending scene.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure everybody on this ship dies except for Seston and Lorna.
Yeah.
Because Pan basically, they get into the big fight with Pan, and then it ends with Lorna shoving Seston into an escape pod.
Yeah.
And then Lorna faking her death again.
Yep.
And everybody else dying on the ship, including Pan, which this time she makes sure Pan dies because she shoots him in the head.
Yeah.
Which is what sets off even Wittick going, okay,
I can't do this.
I can't. We got to deal with you.
Yeah.
And Fry is like, I'll do it happily. And
God.
and Lorna takes Seston prisoner
Yeah.
and is like, I got a meat shield and
I'll do it.
And Wittick's like, you only got one more. You got like no more shots in there. That was your last shot when you took out Pan. And she's like, you sure about that?
He's like, I'm pretty sure.
And so she throws Seston into the escape pod, which we don't know immediately. That's what happens. Yeah. We just hear like a pop go off and then cut away. But we then cut away to Seston being alive on like a snow planet where like these people find her and they're like, what happened? And she's like, oh, my ship got destroyed. I'm alive. My friend Sal is dead, though. And so, yeah. And so, of course, Lorna also escapes with a new ship called the new Lorna, with the ship and the crew. And, oh, no, Ola's alive. Because Ola's part of her crew now.
Yeah, I was like...
I forgot. I wouldn't trust Ola being on that crew, but okay.
Fine.
But yeah, because Lorna shows up to where the Eye is hanging out with, I forget the other Tempest at this time. One of the weaker Tempest runners that we've had.
Is it Wetbub?
No. Wetbub's dead.
It's not Tremok.
No.
Because Tremok was, like, Pan's, like, medical advisor. Or just general advisor where he's like, hey, man, we should probably not do this.
Yeah, hold on. I'm pulling up a list of Tempest runners. Was it? No. Was it Kara?
Karazu? I don't think so.
God, I wish this had a list, but it doesn't. Like, it just shows us the 3 that we know, and then Karazu. Yeah, it is Kara. Kara takes the place of Pan, so yeah, so it would be Karazu. Let me double check, though. I'm checking here.
Zetar.
Oh, Zetar. It is Zetar.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zetar.
So after her escape,
she meets up with Zetar, who's like got a shit Tempest going on, but he's talking to Markion. He's like, "I've got my Tempest for you," and Markion's like, "Well, I guess it's just you and me then."
How many ships do you have? And he's like,
"Just this."
9, including this.
Yeah,
one.
Yeah.
And this prompted me, and this is a thing that I've kind of like realized as we've been going on. And I don't think I've pointed it out on the show, but I'm like, for each of the wounds that the Nihil inflict on the Republic, they suffered just as bad,
if not worse.
But the wounds that they leave are still damaging to the Republic.
Yep.
Markion is hurting their image.
Yeah, Markion's going for the long term.
Yeah.
Whereas they're getting hit short term because they can rebuild.
Yeah.
They just need to go into hiding for a bit, which is what they kind of do up until even after he makes his big reveal I'd say they're still not the number that they were by the end of phase 1. They're still not the numbers that they had before.
No.
They're just good at faking the numbers.
Yeah.
The trick is make them scared of us even if we don't have the numbers to back it up. Because if they're scared of us, then we don't have to,
Yep.
And so Zetar is like, yeah, it's just me. And Markion's like, yep, I heard Lorna died. And they're like, Lorna shows up and is like, nope, I'm here.
Not quite.
In fact, I've got a bigger Tempest than Zetar. Zetar kind of sucks.
Like, you wanna talk about it?
Which at first they're like, what are you doing here? And what's with that ship? Because at first they thought it was a Republic ship because it still has the identifiers of it being you know, being the restitution.
Yep.
And she's like, no, 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 it's no longer the restitution. This is the Lorna D.
Mm.
This is the new Lorna D.
Yeah.
With basically the surviving members of the prisoners being part of her Tempest now, with the counselor, the Republic members being dead now.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Tempest Runner.
Yeah.
So,
Wigs over here, like, I fucking tried. I'm leaving.
yeah, I'm gonna go off and die somewhere else.
I'm gonna go and find a peaceful planet. Maybe that Borderlands planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Quinn is with D still as well. Quinn's also. I forgot
Okay.
Quinn stayed. So, that's right. Quinn joins the new Lorna D Tempest. So
it's a case of we're not sure what they did. They don't talk about it.
yeah, because part of the new. Oh, Fry is a member. No. Hold on. As Lorna D, it's Muglin and Quinn that we know for sure are part of the restitution as Lorna D. Fry and John, as far as we know, died. We don't see their deaths, but we can assume.
I forgot that Wittick's first name is John.
Yeah, John. But Jon.
Yeah. That's still.
But John.
In terms of Star Wars name, I'm like, that is.
It's pretty. Well, I mean, but we got like a Luke. That's a pretty normal name.
Yeah, I'm giving too much. Like. I like this.
Yeah.
I
you like this?
Started off hating it.
So what are your thoughts on audio dramas now? Would you be willing to do another one? Because another one is coming up.
Yeah.
Because they've got one in phase 2.
I'll listen to it.
I mean, you probably will for the show, but I mean, do you think that you're more excited for it now that you've experienced an audio drama, or are you?
Well, now that I know what it's like, I probably won't be as fucking confused.
Well, yeah, because there's no narrator.
Yeah.
Like, it's just you're listening to the events as they unfold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the case of not knowing names, for the first part, it makes sense because you're not supposed to know it's Pan right away when you're listening. Unless you've listened to the audiobooks, then you recognize the voice because it's pretty similar, and you're like, oh, that's Pan Ada. But, like, when you're, like, if you haven't and you're just listening to the audio drama, the suspense is, who is this guy that he's telling the story to?
We've had this thing...
It's the mysterious stranger effect.
Yeah. We've had this thing come up a few times, because normally I will read, like, just the book, and you'll listen to the audiobook and sometimes read it at the same time, which is where we get some of the, like, different pronunciations for names.
Speaking of, do we want to start that fight with this audio drama?
Einen?
No.
No. We're not starting that.
We're not doing the Marsh Mark?
I'm just gonna go with Martian.
Because in this audio drama, they say Martian. But this is because this is before the establishment of It Is Markion happened. This was before that establishment, because that's established officially in Fallen Star. Fallen Star is the first audio book to use Markion instead of Martian. But they use Martian in this. But yeah, as you were saying.
So, fuck, lost my train of thought.
We were talking about pronunciations and differences regarding our styles of.
Yeah. So, I believe you call like Einen Einen.
Yeah, I that was on me. I forgot that it's Einen, because even in the audio drama it's Einen.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna let it slide.
Eventually, I remembered Einen.
This is an interesting thing, and I want to talk about tabletop.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am so glad Pants did not talk.
Oh, because of well, but Pants isn't from Ryloth.
True.
Pants wouldn't have had the French accent.
Couldn't talk anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But he wouldn't have had the French accent, and Sips doesn't either, because he's not from the Ryloth sector either.
Sips is from Lethal.
Yeah, Sips from Lethal. So it makes sense that he wouldn't have the accent, because it's a regional thing. It's not a it's like living in the South versus living in in the North. You got your guy, or even hell, Alabama Southern accent versus a Texas Southern accent. It's still different. It's so like. In this, there's different accents in Star Wars.
Yep. Like, I remember you showed me a map of the general galaxy, and how
you are far away from Ryloth.
Yeah.
Ryloth is like in the it's near where Tatooine and all that is.
It's like
it's near Hut Space.
Here.
Yeah, it's near Hut Space, whereas
way over here.
Yeah, Lethal is higher up on the if we're looking at it from because if we're using like a galactic compass, then it would be northern on the galactic compass. But obviously it's space. But we're using a galactic compass because galactic compass is a thing in Star Wars. So you do have your galactic north and your galactic, but just so that way you know generally where you're going, you got to still have a galactic north and a galactic. It would otherwise get confusing.
This makes me really appreciate the concept of hyperspace beacons.
Too bad one of those got destroyed.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fucking problem.
But yeah. Although, to be fair, that beacon moved.
Yeah. Well, they don't usually... Beacons don't actually stay in place. They generally stay within a set area, but...
Starlight did not. Starlight was like, we go where we're needed.
Yeah.
Which is why they were heading to Irem.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So that is, I'd give it a 8.5, 9, around there.
Yeah, I'll give it a 9.5.
Woo! High praise coming from Seth for his first audio drama. It must have. I mean, it sinks you in. It sinks you in because it's like once you really like you said, it starts off where you're trying to. I mean, it's the same thing with any story. You start off trying to find your footing in the story, and then once you're in the story, if it's a good enough story, it will drag you in. And Tempest Runner, I think, drags you in.
Yes.
Because you learn about these deeper ideas of like why somebody would join the Nihil. And like we've talked about it off air while listening to this, because like at first you're like before this audio drama, you're like kind of like I can kind of see why some people would join, but you don't really 100% see it. And then once you've had this, you're like, oh, it's like any other gang or any cult. You just find people that bring you in and you stick because of them. Or in Lorna's case, you don't trust anybody, and you just happen to find the best opportunity, which is the Nihil.
Yep.
And so it all makes sense. So next week will be pre-recorded. We need to figure out when we're going to do that, which depends on when you finish the book.
Yeah, I know. I'll start listening soon.
Or reading, because I gave you the text this time. I'm listening. I gave you the text.
Are you ready for the wildest pronunciations you've ever heard?
Well, I'm pretty sure you won't mess up Marda, because that's Marda.
Yeah. That spelled phonetically.
Yeah. Yana is pretty much phonetically as well. It's Yana.
You mean Yana?
And we all know Ro, R-O. It's so Yana and Marda.
That would be the hardest one for me to fuck up.
Core, I think it's K-O-R.
Okay.
So, and then Mother. You know Mother.
Mother.
My favorite so far of the characters is Sunshine.
Sunshine?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, the next book is about cults.
Oh.
Boy, oh boy.
Oh, we're gonna get some weird names, aren't we?
No. I think Sunshine is the weirdest one, but.
Yeah, Sunshine's not that bad.
But I mean, it's definitely a hippy dippy cult name. Like, it makes you think of, like, the Manson level, like, names. But yeah.
I don't like these.
So next time, pre-recorded, we'll be talking the High Republic Path of Deceit.
Yep.
Which is the first of Wave 2 of the High Republic, which means we are now going further back.
Yep.
Because, we started in... This is 232 is the start of the High Republic, right? Because it's 200 years before Phantom Menace. This goes 350, or 150 back. 150 back, I think. Yeah, 150. And so that brings us to our new furthest back in the canon timeline, because this is now the new furthest back you can go within canon. Ooh. Also, there's a short story for Insider, so we'll have to plan out when to do that on the schedule. But there's a lot of new stuff coming out, so we'll figure it out, though. Yeah, so now we're in 382 BBY. Or 382 Baby. Baby and Abby.
Yep.
And so, yeah, 150 then would be the math. So, Path of Deceit, and then I guess we'll figure out when to do the short story for that. If this is a part 1 and part 2, we might wait till part 2 comes out. Yeah, second part is later, so we'll wait till both parts are out then.
I'm trying to remember. I asked you. This is another thing. I'm trying to remember. I know I asked you this off camera.
Yeah.
Like a couple of weeks ago, about who your favorite like apprentice was in the High Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about it. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Well,
okay. I guess that'll be it for this episode. Thank you all for watching. Be sure, if you're on YouTube, youtube.com/Escape Reality Films, be sure, if you're watching live, to like and subscribe to the channel. If you are watching on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/CJ Star Wars 94. Feel free to follow or subscribe. Subscriptions really help us. We don't have any yet. We're almost at my goal of 100 follows on Twitch, though. We have 96. We only need 4 more to get that first 100 follows. And then if you subscribe, that helps us out financially, because we are trying to make this to where we could do this more often and have other shows, because like we talked about last week, we have an idea of another show, but the problem is timing and figuring out the way that, because we know we want to do it differently than this.
Yeah.
Another way that you can help us is you can check out the Patreon, which is patreon.com/Escape Reality Films. There you can hang out with us through Discord from there. You can also see concept art for my comic book Superworlds, based on my novel that is being worked on, and some new art just got posted today. The new art has actually a little bit of a good look at the first page. The first page is looking good for the comic. You get a good look at Shadow from the book, because Shadow is in it in the comic. He's in the first issue anyways, and he's like this assassin character that's in the books. And then a little bit of dialogue is also dropped in the newest preview of the concept art. And we would also like to thank Jennifer for being our current main Patreon.
Yeah, thank you.
Member, and that's Seth's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's great.
And so, also like to thank Mopcast Network, who provides the space. They rent out this space, and they just let us borrow it. And I help them with their podcast. We got the Cult Movie Cantina, which we're currently in a season hiatus before the new season. And so, but you
have a vampire problem with this season.
Yeah, this season we got a few vampire movies, but we're basically exploring the late 80s or mid 90s for our films. Yeah. And we're going to have... So we changed some of the things that we normally would do. So there's no Star Trek films this season, which is something that we do every now and then. We're not jumping into any sequels without watching the previous film. So if we haven't seen the previous film, we're not going to jump to a sequel. Which is also a thing that we do on that show, where we'll just throw Justina, she's the one who hasn't seen any movies, which is part of the premise. Is we show the movies to somebody who hasn't seen them and have some drinks with that are made to go with it as well. And so Justina's the one who normally doesn't see the movies, and so one of the jokes that happens is we'll toss her into a sequel.
Y'all love to do that to people.
But no sequel this season, without the first film, anyways. Because there is a sequel in the season, but this season also has the first film. We've already announced the film, so I'll say which ones. We're doing Manhunt, which is based on the book Red Dragon. And then we're going to watch Silence of the Lamb as well. So, Silence of the Lamb is not technically a sequel, but it's a sequel in this ruling because Manhunt's technically the first of the films that are about that Hannibal Lecter. It's the only one that's not actually named after the book that it's adapting. We also got, for our vampire... Well, I'm not going to say all the vampire movies because one of them is this... I don't think Justina watches, so actually I could probably say. We're trying to keep the surprise because one of them doesn't start off as a vampire movie, but it becomes a vampire movie.
Does it start with an...
It starts with an F.
Oh.
It's a preposition. It's a Tarantino film. A Tarantino and Rodriguez film, actually.
I see. Okay.
I think you know which one it is now that I've given those hints. Has George Clooney in it.
That's not what I was going to guess, but the other one also has vampires in it. But you can figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah, this one, no, it's the halfway point before the vampires show up, because it starts off as a robbery heist escape film, and then it becomes a vampire movie. Like halfway through, it's like, oh, it's a vampire movie.
I know. It shifts genres so fucking hard.
But it's great because of it. But then the problem is all the advertising reveals that it's a vampire movie, and it's like, no, we don't want to reveal that.
This is some, hey, did you think the original Terminator was going to be evil in Terminator 2?
Or any Terminator trailer post Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Like, literally every trailer for a Terminator film reveals the plot twist. Anyways, the other vampire films are we're doing Interview with a Vampire because of the new TV show, which has started. I need to watch the show. And then we're doing... There was another one. Oh, Buffy, the Vampire Slayer. The movie, not the TV show.
You'd be going for a while if you did the TV show.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got 3 vampire movies this season. And so,
that's what Cult Movie Canteen.
Yeah, that's what Cult Movie Canteen is up to for this upcoming season. We also got...
I don't have to hide my face from the camera.
We also got My Star Wars Life, which currently we're doing Andor talks. So it's Andor Days.
Andor Day talk.
Andor Days. It's Andor Days. It's the Andor Days. The end of days. The Andor Days.
End of the galaxies at war.
Yeah, so we're talking about we're talking about the Andor show currently. We're a couple episodes behind, but we've gotten the first 3 episodes out, so go check those out. That you can find those on youtube.com/Mobcast Network, or you can find them on any podcasting app. And so I'm there, so go see me there as well. I help produce and I'm a co-host. So
if they look for you, they will find you.
Yeah. If we build it, they will come. No. And then I also want to thank Gamers and Geeks, our local gaming shop, which provides they're the ones that rent out the space to Mobcast Network, and they're friends of us as well. And so if you're ever in Mobile, Alabama, you can come check us out. They got tabletop games, card games, board games, all that good stuff. Warhammer, Pokemon, Magic, D&D, whatever you're into. There's also an arcade in the back where you can pay $10 and it's free play arcade. So once you pay the $10, you get the whole day you get a little wristband, you get the whole day to play whatever games you want. And then there's also Engage Gaming, which is right next door in the same building. They provide a rental sort of system where you can either be a member or you don't have to be a member, but if you're a member, you get a percentage, you get a cheaper price for the rental fees, which is like an hourly rate to play consoles or PC. So if you don't have a console and you want to play some games, they've got the Xbox, PlayStation, PC, VR machines even. So if there's some games you want to try out, and you just pay an hourly rate. Like I said, if you're a member, you get a cheaper rate. Pretty cool. In my opinion, it's a good way for people that can't afford, to buy a console and the game to be able to still interact with that type of stuff and still be able to experience it. So I think it's cool. And that's everything I can think of. Anything you want to plug? Anything big coming up?
Not yet, and probably not for a while, but eventually I'll have something. I'll talk with you about.
Yeah, talk with me. Yeah, I want to hear. I didn't. That's the first time where you've said that something is actually coming up. Usually, it's like, no, I'm good. So I'm interested now.
You need your help.
Oh, okay. My intrigue has been piqued.
Yeah. But
so
for now.
And of course, there's the other project for us that we're keeping a little bit shut-lipped on. If you're in the Discord, you know what it is.
Probably you'll think it's another one of these. Okay, these two have gone a little bit crazy.
Yeah, no. Zach says that the podcast idea that we're having is a little too niche.
Yeah, I admit.
It's a bit niche. It's a bit niche, but I think niche is in right now. I think niche podcasts are in right now. So we're going for it at some point. But that's everything this week then, and we'll see you guys next week. Once again, it will be pre-recorded. Y'all have a good one. I've spoken.